What if growth wasn't just about reaching higher or reaching further? One of the things that I've been thinking about lately is what growth actually gives us access to, the almost byproduct of the process that might actually even be more significant. Make sure you wait till the end as I share with you what I believe is the biggest reward of intentional growth and how to structure it. Most of the time, when we talk about growth as leaders, we talk about skill. We talk about getting better at communication, delegation, strategy, execution, hiring, accountability, or decision making. And all of that matters. I spend a lot of my time helping business owners and leadership teams build those things. But I do think that this is the deepest part of growth. The deeper part of growth is that growth gives us access to something inside us that was not available before. It may give us access to compassion, gentleness, or that quiet confidence. It might give us access to patience, courage, clarity, forgiveness, steadiness, or the ability to sit with something uncomfortable without immediately reacting to it. That's a different kind of growth. A conversation I had with my coach that helped sharpen this for me was he was pushing me to think about how I communicate, especially with business owners. His point was not that I needed better slogans or more polished content. His point was that the real power is not in just what I believe, it is in why I believe it and how I see the world. And so that hit me because the work is not just to tell people what I know. The work is to help them recognize themselves in what is being said, to help them see something they have felt but maybe have not yet had language for yet. And one of the things that I see often is that owners and leaders are trying to grow their business while also being invited to grow as people. Those two things are connected. They're more serious than we sometimes want to give admission to. A business will expose whatever is under the surface. Pressure has a way of doing that. Growth has a way of doing that. People have a way of doing that. The employee who keeps missing the detail, the manager who needs to be reminded again, the customer issues that should have been handled better, the team member that does not see what seems obvious to all of us. It all starts with touching something, triggering something inside of us. And when it touches something inside of us, we usually have a response, right? Sometimes the response is frustration, right? Sometimes it's we control it. Sometimes we withdraw from it. Sometimes it's intensity. Sometimes it's the need to fix it immediately so we do not have to sit with and feel the discomfort of what is showing up, of that judgment, of that internal just sadness. That is where growth gets really, really interesting because the goal is not to become a leader who never feels those things. That's just not real. The goal is to become a leader who has more access to the right responses when those things show up. I had a conversation with a business owner where we were talking about employees and expectations. She was frustrated, understandably, because certain things that felt like common sense to her were not being done. The store should be clean. The work should be noticed. The obvious things should be obvious. But common sense is not always common. When we can accept that, not as an excuse, but just as information, something changes. We get access to a different kind of leadership. Instead of only getting mad, we can create a clear expectation. Instead of assuming someone does not care, we can ask whether they were ever really taught. Instead of seeing every missed detail as disrespect, we can actually see it as a place where the system, the standard, or the rhythm might need to be a little clearer. That does not make accountability softer. I think it makes accountability fairer. When we look at people with more grace and compassion, we're not lowering the standard for them. We are changing the way we help people reach the standard. And that's a sign of growth. In another conversation, we were talking about personality, values, marriage, communication, and the way that people can see the same situation through completely different lenses. Two people can both care deeply. Two people can both be trying to help. Two people can be acting from love, and yet the way that love comes out can feel frustrating, dismissive, overwhelming, or even hurtful to the other person. That is true in marriage. That is true in leadership. That is true in business partnerships. And it's just true with teams. One of the most important pieces of growth is learning that our intention and our impact can be two different things. We may intend to help, but land as pressure. We may intend to bring clarity, but it lands as criticism. We may intend to protect the business, but it lands as control. We may intend to challenge someone, but it lands as disappointment. That awareness can be really uncomfortable because it's not what we intended, but it also gives us access. When I can see my own impact more honestly, I get access to gentleness, not weakness. Gentleness, the ability to stay strong without becoming harsh. When I can understand why something's bothered me, I can get access to patience, not passivity. Patience is the ability to respond after I've gained a little more clarity. Taking a deep breath. When I can see that someone else's reaction might be coming from their own lens, fear, history, or wiring, I get access to compassion, not the kind that avoids truth, but the kind that makes truth easier to hear. When I've done enough work to know what I value and what I am trying to build, I get access to confidence, not ego. Confidence is grounded in the ability to make a decision, communicate it clearly, and stay steady when not everyone understands it the right way. That's tough. That is part of leadership growth that we do not always name. It's important, but we don't. We are not just gaining better tools, we are gaining better access. Access to the part of us that can pause. Access to the part of us that can ask better questions. Access to the part of us that can tell the truth without using truth as a weapon. Access to the part of us that can hold a standard and still see the human being in front of us. Access to the part that can choose growth instead of simply choosing reaction. That's why awareness matters so much. Awareness is not the whole answer, but it is often the doorway. Until we can see what is showing up in me, I usually will assume that the issue is what is showing up in them. Right? A team needs to grow. A business needs to grow. A process needs to grow. But sometimes, so do I. And that is not a failure. That is the part of the invitation. And that invitation is to be able to find what I believe is the greatest gift of growth, contentment. The next time you feel yourself getting frustrated, intense, defensive, or overly certain, consider asking different questions. Might this be a moment that I'm trying to give me access to something? It might be compassion. It might be gentleness. It might be confidence. Heck, it might be clear standards or a better conversation. And then we're all so very, very valuable. Maybe it is the next level of leadership that cannot be reached through information alone. Because the business cannot outgrow the clarity of its leadership. And sometimes that clarity starts with becoming more aware of what is happening inside of us. If you're feeling that pull, if you're feeling the pull that type of growth is needed in your life and business, join me at callwithbrad.com for a short conversation to explore what's possible for you. I look forward to supporting you along your journey, wherever that may go. And I hope you have yourself an amazing, wonderful day.